Have you ever felt like something was off about someone, but couldn't quite put your finger on it? That nagging feeling deep inside telling you to be cautious? Well, that's your intuition talking, and it's often right. In today's world, it's more important than ever to recognize when someone has toxic or harmful intentions. The problem is, malicious people are tricky. They can blend in, seem charming, or even pose as a friend. But sooner or later, the mask slips. They leave clues. And these clues, they're red flags. As Maya Angelou wisely said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. But how do we know what to look for? We're about to dive into 6 subtle yet powerful red flags that can save you from unnecessary chaos, heartache, and maybe even betrayal. Before we go deeper, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, because recognizing these signs can seriously change the way you interact with others. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for this one. Ready to uncover the truth? Let's jump in. Lesson 1. Manipulation, the master tool of a malicious person. When it comes to malicious people, manipulation is often their weapon of choice. They use it to subtly control and distort the reality around them, all while making you feel like the decisions and emotions you're experiencing are your own. It's sneaky and dangerous because it's not always obvious at first. Over time, however, manipulation can trap you in a cycle of self-doubt, anxiety, and dependence on the manipulator's approval. Malicious manipulators are skilled at wearing masks. At first, they may seem charming, helpful, and invested in your well-being, but their kindness often comes with strings attached. Everything they do has an ulterior motive, whether it's gaining power over you, controlling the narrative, or using your actions to benefit their own agenda. They twist facts, selectively leave out key details, and can even make you question your own memories or perceptions. This technique is known as gaslighting, a form of manipulation that's specifically designed to make you feel unstable or unsure of your reality. Let's say, for example, you confront them about something they did that hurt you. Instead of owning up to their behavior, a malicious person will twist the situation to make it seem like you were the one at fault. They'll deflect blame, act confused, or even pretend to be hurt by your accusations. Suddenly, you find yourself apologizing or explaining your actions, even though they were the ones who crossed a boundary. This tactic can leave you feeling guilty or ashamed, making it easier for them to manipulate you further in the future. Another key trait of manipulation is making you feel overly responsible for their emotions. A manipulative person might say things like, "If you really loved me, you'd do this for me," or "After all I've done for you, this is how you repay me." These statements put immense pressure on you to act in ways that serve them rather than what's best for you. They guilt-trip you into decisions that you wouldn't normally make, framing your compliance as a sign of loyalty or affection. The scariest part of manipulation is that it can be hard to detect until it's too late. That's why you need to be vigilant about how you feel in your interactions with people. If you're constantly second-guessing yourself, feeling guilty, or walking on eggshells around someone, that's a strong indicator that manipulation might be at play. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect and clear communication, not control and coercion. The moment you feel like someone is making you doubt your own reality, it's time to take a step back and reassess the situation. It's also important to trust your gut. Your intuition is often the first defense against manipulation. If something feels off, even if you can't immediately pinpoint what it is, listen to that feeling. Malicious people rely on you ignoring these early warning signs so they can weave their web of control. Don't let them. Remember this: you are never responsible for managing someone else's emotions. It's not your job to constantly cater to someone's needs or make them feel validated at the expense of your own well-being. People who care about you will never make you feel guilty for setting boundaries or for saying no. Manipulation is a dangerous game that malicious people play, but once you start recognizing the signs, you gain the power to resist. Take control back by trusting your feelings, standing firm in your boundaries, and refusing to let anyone dictate how you should feel or act. The more aware you become of manipulative behavior, the less likely you'll be trapped in someone else's toxic game. If this resonates with you and you want to dive deeper into these dynamics, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're just getting started. There's so much more to uncover about spotting and dealing with malicious behavior. Stay with us as we dig deeper into these red flags so you can protect yourself and those you care about. Lesson 2. Lack of empathy, the heartless core of malicious behavior. One of the most telling signs of a malicious person is their profound lack of empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, and it's the glue that holds healthy relationships together. When someone lacks empathy, they are unable or unwilling to see things from another person's perspective. This emotional blind spot isn't just inconvenient, it's dangerous, because it allows them to act with cruelty or indifference without feeling the emotional weight of their actions. A person without empathy is often only concerned with their own needs, desires, and perspectives. They might go through life treating people as objects or tools to be used for their own benefit. You'll notice that they don't pause to consider how their actions affect others. If they lie, cheat, or hurt someone, they rarely show remorse. In fact, they might even feel justified in their behavior, as if the world owes them something. This self-centered mindset makes it easy for them to rationalize their harmful actions. They might even belittle or dismiss others' pain, seeing it as insignificant compared to their own needs. In situations that require compassion or understanding, malicious people show a cold detachment. For instance, if you come to them for support after a rough day, they may respond with indifference, quickly shifting the conversation back to themselves or downplaying your emotions. Worse, they might use your vulnerability as an opportunity to further manipulate or control you. This lack of emotional connection creates an unbalanced dynamic where you're constantly giving while they're only taking. Over time, this can leave you feeling emotionally drained, invalidated, and used. A malicious person without empathy can also be highly judgmental. They tend to lack the capacity to see the gray areas in life, reducing complex human experiences into black and white terms. If someone else is suffering, they might coldly say things like, "It's their fault for being weak," or "They should have known better," offering no compassion or understanding of the circumstances. This judgmental attitude is often paired with a sense of superiority, as if their lack of emotional depth somehow makes them stronger or more capable than others. What's particularly insidious about the lack of empathy is that it can cause you to question your own feelings. If you're constantly being dismissed or invalidated, you might start to wonder if you're overreacting or being too sensitive. Malicious people thrive on making others feel like their emotions are unimportant, trivial, or even a burden. Over time, you may find yourself suppressing your feelings around them to avoid their judgment or indifference. But here's the thing, your feelings are valid, and no one has the right to make you feel small for experiencing them. A lack of empathy in someone else is not a reflection of your worth or your emotions. It's a sign that this person is emotionally disconnected and incapable of offering the care and understanding that every human deserves. Recognizing a lack of empathy in someone doesn't mean you have to confront them or try to fix them. In fact, it's often best to protect yourself by distancing from people who show no regard for your emotions. A relationship with someone who lacks empathy can never be healthy because they will always prioritize themselves over you. There is no room for true connection or mutual support when one person is emotionally closed off. and unable to see the world through another's eyes. The good news is that by learning to recognize this trait, you can safeguard your own emotional well-being. Surround yourself with people who demonstrate empathy, those who care about your feelings, who listen without judgment, and who are willing to offer support when you need it. Relationships built on empathy are ones that allow both people to thrive, grow, and feel seen. If you've ever felt ignored, invalidated, or misunderstood by someone who should have shown empathy, you're not alone. Stick around. There are more red flags to uncover, and learning them will help you build healthier, more compassionate connections. Like and subscribe to keep yourself in the loop as we continue exploring the traits of malicious individuals and how to protect yourself. Lesson 3, Chronic Lying, the Web of Deception. A major red flag of a malicious person is their tendency to lie, and not just occasionally, but habitually. Chronic lying is their way of constructing a false narrative around themselves, often designed to manipulate, control, or gain an advantage over others. Malicious people lie to protect their image, hide their true intentions, or avoid accountability. The issue with chronic liars is that the truth becomes so twisted and muddled in their web of deception that it becomes nearly impossible to trust anything they say. Malicious liars often lie effortlessly and about things that don't even seem necessary. They'll lie about small, insignificant details just as easily as they will about major life events or their intentions. Why? Because lying for them is a form of power. By controlling what you believe to be true, they gain control over how you perceive them and the situation. Lying helps them maintain an illusion of competence, kindness, or innocence. Even when caught, they may weave further lies to explain away their dishonesty, deflect blame, or make you question your perception. Consider this. You confront them with proof of a lie, something undeniable. Instead of owning up to it, they might react by lying even more, claiming you misunderstood, that someone else gave them wrong information, or even turning it around and accusing you of not trusting them. This manipulation tactic, combined with chronic dishonesty, makes it very difficult to get to the truth of any situation. You may start second-guessing yourself, asking, did I get it wrong? Could I be overreacting? Another common behavior of chronic liars is the creation of multiple narratives to different people. They'll tell one person one story and another person a completely different version, carefully crafting each lie to fit their audience. This technique allows them to maintain multiple realities depending on what benefits them the most in the moment. If you compare stories with others, you'll often find inconsistencies, but they'll have ready excuses to cover those gaps, further convincing you of their innocence. One of the most damaging aspects of chronic lying is the erosion of trust. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, whether it's personal or professional. When someone lies to you repeatedly, it chips away at that foundation. Even small lies can accumulate, creating an atmosphere of suspicion and doubt. You start to wonder, what else have they lied about? Over time, this can lead to constant anxiety and a sense that you have to be on guard all the time, questioning everything they say or do. Chronic lying isn't just harmful to the person being lied to. It's also a clear sign that the liar has no respect for your intelligence or autonomy. By lying, they assume that you're either too gullible to catch on or too powerless to do anything about it if you do. This disrespect should be a major warning signal. People who care about you don't lie to you, especially not about things that can impact your relationship or your ability to make informed decisions. It's important to recognize that chronic lying isn't a mistake. It's a pattern of behavior that reflects a deeper problem. Malicious people who lie chronically are not just making errors in judgment. They are actively choosing to manipulate reality for their own gain. In many cases, they'll continue to lie as long as it works for them, only changing their approach when they're caught or when the consequences become too severe. The best way to deal with a chronic liar is to set firm boundaries and, if possible, distance yourself from them. If you confront them, be prepared for more lies or attempts to shift the blame. Don't expect an honest person to suddenly emerge from someone who has built their world on deception. It's often a losing battle to try and fix or change a chronic liar, especially if they don't show remorse or a desire to be truthful. In healthy relationships, trust is a non-negotiable. If someone continuously lies to you, no matter how trivial the lies seem, it's a sign that they don't value honesty, and that's a major red flag. Protect your peace and surround yourself with people who understand that trust, once broken, isn't easily repaired. If this sounds familiar and you've experienced the exhausting game of trying to sift through someone's endless lies, you're not alone. Stick around for more insights into spotting malicious behaviors and learning how to guard yourself against them. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because recognizing these red flags is the first step to protecting your emotional well-being. Lesson 4. Lack of accountability. The blame game. Another glaring red flag of a malicious person is their complete lack of accountability. These individuals have an almost allergic reaction to taking responsibility for their actions, especially when they've caused harm or made a mistake. Instead of owning up to their behavior, they master the art of deflection, excuses, and blame shifting, ensuring that nothing ever sticks to them. If you've ever felt like you're constantly the one apologizing or being blamed for something that isn't your fault, chances are you're dealing with someone who refuses to be accountable. One common tactic of malicious people is to play the victim. Even when they are clearly in the wrong, they manage to flip the situation around and make it seem like they're the one who has been wronged. For example, if you call them out on their hurtful behavior, they might say things like, "You don't understand how hard my life is," or "I can't believe you would accuse me of that after everything I've been through." In this way, they redirect the focus away from their actions and make you feel guilty for even addressing the issue. It's an emotional sleight of hand that leaves you doubting your own perspective and shifting the blame onto yourself. These individuals also excel at making excuses. Whether it's their upbringing, a tough day at work, or something entirely unrelated, they will always find a way to justify their behavior without ever admitting fault. If they miss a deadline, it's because they were too busy with something more important. If they lie, it's because they didn't want to hurt your feelings. If they lash out in anger, it's because you provoked them. In their world, nothing is ever really their fault, and there's always an external reason for their behavior. This chronic excuse-making is an attempt to shield themselves from any form of accountability, placing the burden of their actions squarely on the shoulders of others. Malicious people will often go a step further and actually blame you for their own mistakes or shortcomings. This is called projection, a psychological defense mechanism where they project their own undesirable traits or behaviors onto someone else. For example, if they've been untrustworthy or dishonest, they might accuse you of being the one who's lying or sneaking around. If they are neglecting responsibilities, they might say you're the one who's failing to keep up. This tactic not only deflects blame, but also confuses and disorients you, making it harder to identify where the real problem lies. What's even more exhausting about dealing with someone who lacks accountability is that they often leave you carrying the emotional weight of the relationship. You may find yourself constantly cleaning up their messes, apologizing for things you didn't do, or making up for their mistakes. This dynamic can create a toxic pattern where you feel responsible for their emotions, actions, and even their well-being, all while they continue to avoid responsibility at every turn. But here's the hard truth. You are not responsible for managing someone else's behavior, nor should you feel obligated to protect them from the consequences of their actions. Healthy relationships require both people to take ownership of their mistakes, communicate openly, and work together to resolve issues. If someone consistently avoids accountability, it's a sign that they aren't interested in growth or change, and that they expect you to shoulder the burden for them. One of the most important steps in protecting yourself from this kind of behavior is learning to set clear boundaries. When someone tries to blame you for their actions or shifts the responsibility away from themselves, calmly and firmly hold your ground. Don't engage in their blame game or take on guilt that doesn't belong to you. Instead, remind them that everyone is responsible for their own choices. If they continue to refuse accountability, it might be time to reconsider the relationship altogether. At the end of the day, accountability is non-negotiable in any healthy dynamic. It shows maturity, integrity, and a willingness to grow from mistakes. Without it, relationships become one-sided and exhausting. So if you've found yourself repeatedly on the receiving end of someone's blame, take a step back, reassess, and ask yourself if this is really the kind of person you want to invest in. For more insights on how to protect your emotional well-being and navigate these difficult dynamics, make sure to like and subscribe. We've still got a few more crucial red flags to cover, and trust me, they're just as important. Stay tuned for more ways to safeguard yourself from malicious behavior. Lesson 5, Emotional Manipulation, the subtle play on your feelings. Emotional manipulation is one of the most toxic weapons in a malicious person's arsenal. It's a method of control that involves deliberately influencing someone's emotions in order to exploit or dominate them. The tricky thing about emotional manipulation is that it's often so subtle that you don't even realize it's happening, at least not at first. It's a slow, creeping influence where the manipulator pulls the strings behind the scenes, playing with your feelings and reactions like a puppeteer. By the time you do notice, you may already feel trapped in a cycle of self-doubt, guilt, and emotional exhaustion. The most common form of emotional manipulation is guilt tripping. A malicious person will make you feel responsible for their happiness or well-being, framing your actions, or lack of them, as a betrayal of their trust or affection. They might say things like, "After everything I've done for you, how could you let me down like this?" Or, "I guess I just care more about this relationship than you do." These statements aren't just about getting what they want. They're designed to make you feel like you're failing them or not living up to some imaginary standard they've set. Over time, you begin to internalize these feelings of guilt, thinking that you owe them something or that their needs always come first. Another hallmark of emotional manipulation is playing the victim. Malicious people are masters at flipping the narrative to make themselves appear as though they're the ones being hurt or mistreated, even when they're the ones causing the harm. You'll find them exaggerating their suffering, distorting events, and painting themselves as the innocent party, forcing you to shift your focus away from their wrongdoing and instead feel sorry for them. For instance, if you confront them about their hurtful behavior, they might respond with, "I can't believe you would think so little of me," or "I've had such a hard life. Can't you understand why I am the way I am?" This tactic shifts the blame onto you and leaves you feeling guilty for even bringing it up. Gaslighting is another tool manipulators use to distort your perception of reality. In this scenario, they make you question your own thoughts, feelings, and memories, effectively undermining your sense of self-trust. They may outright deny things they said or did, or they might twist your words so convincingly that you begin to doubt your own version of events. You might hear things like, "You're too sensitive," or "That never happened, you're imagining things." Over time, this makes you feel like you can't trust your own mind, leaving you more dependent on their version of reality. Malicious people also use emotional blackmail to manipulate your decisions and behaviors. They'll threaten to withdraw their affection, support, or even presence if you don't do what they want. It can be as blatant as, "If you loved me, you'd do this for me," or as subtle as giving you the cold shoulder until you give in to their demands. This type of manipulation creates an environment of emotional scarcity, where you constantly fear losing their approval or affection, leading you to comply with their wishes even when it's against your better judgment. The damage caused by emotional manipulation is often invisible, but incredibly destructive. It can leave you feeling drained, anxious, and disconnected from yourself. You may start to feel like you're walking on eggshells around this person, afraid of triggering their disapproval or anger. Worse still, you might begin to question your own worth, wondering if you really are as selfish, ungrateful, or unloving as they make you out to be. But here's the truth. Emotional manipulation says more about them than it does about you. Manipulative people are often deeply insecure and crave control to compensate for their own lack of emotional stability. Their tactics are designed to shift the balance of power in their favor, ensuring that they remain in control of the relationship. It's a toxic dynamic that's impossible to sustain in a healthy way, and the longer you're exposed to it, the more it erodes your sense of self-worth and emotional well-being. The key to breaking free from emotional manipulation is recognizing it for what it is and setting firm boundaries. Don't let someone guilt you into actions that make you uncomfortable or question your reality. Your feelings are valid, and it's not your responsibility to manage someone else's emotions. If someone truly cares about you, they won't use your emotions as a tool to manipulate or control you. If you've found this lesson helpful and want to learn more about how to spot these behaviors, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're not done yet. There's still one more red flag to discuss, and it's a big one. Stay tuned for the final lesson on how to protect yourself from malicious individuals. Lesson 6. Consistent boundary violations. The disrespect of limits. The final red flag that reveals a malicious person is their blatant disregard for boundaries. Healthy relationships thrive on mutual respect, which includes honoring each other's physical, emotional, and mental space. Malicious people, however, either don't understand or outright refuse to respect boundaries. They see limits not as lines to be honored, but as obstacles to be ignored or bulldozed through. Boundary violations are their way of asserting dominance and control, gradually wearing down your sense of autonomy and self-worth. At first, these violations may seem minor. Perhaps they interrupt you constantly, invade your personal space, or dismiss your feelings. These might feel like small annoyances, but they are subtle indicators that they don't value your right to set limits. As time passes, their boundary violations often escalate. They might start going through your personal belongings without permission, demanding more of your time than you can give, or pushing you into uncomfortable situations. Each small infraction chips away at your personal agency, leaving you feeling disrespected, unheard, and ultimately powerless. One of the most telling signs of a boundary violator is their reaction when you try to enforce your limits. Malicious people don't take kindly to being told no. If you attempt to assert a boundary, whether it's something as simple as needing time alone or as serious as refusing to tolerate a particular behavior, they often respond with anger, guilt-tripping, or manipulative tactics to make you feel bad for even trying. They might say things like, "Why are you being so selfish?" Or "I thought we were close, but I guess you don't care about me anymore." This reaction is designed to make you second-guess your right to have boundaries in the first place. A particularly insidious form of boundary violation comes in the form of overstepping emotional boundaries. Malicious people will try to control how you feel, making you feel guilty for experiencing emotions they deem inconvenient or uncomfortable. For example, if you express sadness, they might accuse you of being too sensitive. If you're angry, they might say you're overreacting. By invalidating your emotions, they create an environment where only their feelings matter, leaving you struggling to justify your own needs and reactions. In romantic relationships or friendships, This disregard for boundaries can also manifest as possessiveness. A malicious person might demand to know where you are at all times, monitor your interactions with others, or become irrationally jealous of your relationships with friends and family. They often disguise this behavior as caring or being protective, but in reality, it's about controlling every aspect of your life. Over time, this possessiveness isolates you from your support system and leaves you dependent on them for validation and connection. At work, malicious colleagues or bosses who disregard boundaries will push you beyond your limits, assigning unreasonable workloads, expecting you to be available 24/7, or invading your personal life under the guise of teamwork or commitment to the job. If you push back, they might accuse you of not being a team player or threaten your position. This type of boundary violation can lead to burnout, stress, and a sense of helplessness as you struggle to reclaim your personal time and space. Recognizing these violations is the first step to protecting yourself. Setting boundaries is not only your right, it's essential for your mental and emotional well-being. But here's the hard truth. Malicious people will rarely respect your boundaries if they've already shown they don't care about them. You can explain, defend, and reassert your boundaries as much as you want, but if someone is committed to overstepping them, they are revealing their lack of respect for you as a person. Their inability or refusal to honor your limits is a clear sign that they're more interested in controlling or using you than in maintaining a healthy relationship. So, what can you do? The first step is to recognize that you are not overreacting. People who respect you will never make you feel bad for having boundaries. You are allowed to say no, to need space, and to set limits on what you will and won't tolerate. Once you've recognized the pattern of boundary violations, it's important to start asserting yourself firmly and consistently. But here's the key. Don't just rely on words. Malicious people are experts at wearing you down with excuses, guilt, or emotional manipulation. Instead, follow through with actions. If someone repeatedly disrespects your boundaries, it might be necessary to distance yourself or cut them off entirely. The most empowering thing you can do in response to boundary violations is to stand firm. Protecting your emotional, physical, and mental space isn't selfish. It's necessary for your health and well-being. Surround yourself with people who understand and respect this. If this resonates with you, and you've experienced the exhaustion of dealing with someone who consistently disregards your limits, you're not alone. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content on how to protect yourself from toxic behaviors and reclaim control over your life. There's more to explore, and each step you take towards self-protection is a step towards a healthier, happier future. We've covered a lot of ground on how to spot malicious people: manipulation, lack of empathy, chronic lying, dodging accountability, emotional games, and boundary violations. These aren't just random red flags. They're signs that someone doesn't respect you, your feelings, or your limits. Now here's the most important part: what you do next. The more aware you become, the better you can protect yourself. Your peace, your happiness, and your emotional health are worth defending, no matter who the other person is. But what do you think? Have you ever experienced these behaviors, or do you know someone who fits this description? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and stories. You never know who you might be helping by sharing your experience. And don't forget to hit that like button if you found this useful. It helps more people find this content. Oh, and if you haven't already, subscribe so you never miss another lesson on recognizing toxic behaviors and building stronger boundaries. We've got plenty more to dive into, and trust me, you'll want to stay tuned for the next one. Remember, awareness is power. Stay sharp, stay strong, and keep taking steps to protect your emotional well-being.